Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Well, today it's time for all of us to get together to talk about another lesson on Chinese learning. So today's topic is Chinese versus Mandarin. By the way, if you don't know me, my name is Sophia Xiong. I run ChineseForKids.net, and I create courses and ebooks for parents and teachers to help children to learn Chinese. So if you want to know more about me, you can go to ChineseForKids.net, and at the end of this lesson, you will find the link. Okay, so today we want to talk about Chinese and Mandarin. Why am I going to talk about this? Because a lot of people ask me, I'm learning Chinese, but I heard somebody saying there's another language, which is Mandarin. What is the difference? And sometimes in some schools, you can hear, you can see in the curriculum offering, it says Mandarin. And the people were asking me what Mandarin is, why they don't say Chinese. So sometimes you can see Chinese is offered in some schools, and sometimes you can see Mandarin is offered. So it is confusing for many people. For some people, I would say it's normal. That's why I want to give you this lesson, just to let you understand the difference between Chinese and the Mandarin. Okay, so basically Chinese, we say it Chinese in English. However, if we translate Chinese into Chinese, it has two meanings. One is Hanyu. Hanyu, it refers to the spoken Chinese. Hanyu, basically it is the language, the dialect spoken by Han people. And if you don't know about Han people is the largest ethnic group in China. There are 56 ethnic groups in China, and Han people is the majority of this number one ethnic group in China. And because of that, the spoken Chinese is taking the form of the Han language. It is not only spoken by the Han people, it is also spoken by other people from other ethnic groups in China. So Hanyu is the spoken form of the language. Chinese can be also translated into Zhongwen, and that refers to the written form of Chinese, Zhongwen. So as you can see, a language has two forms, spoken language and a written language. There are certain languages in the world which have only the spoken form. They don't have the written form. In China, the spoken form is taken from the Han people language, Hanyu, and the written form, it is what is written on the books. The fact is, there are several different spoken Chinese in China, but the written form of Chinese is universal in China. So basically, people may speak differently, but they read the same way because the written language is the same. I hope it makes sense. Okay, right now I show you a map. This map is the distribution of Chinese dialects. So you can see there are different colors. The one on the top you can ignore, that's an Inner Mongolia area. And on the southwest, that's Tibetan area. And on the northwest, there are some yellow parts you can also ignore. Those are the minority groups. they may speak their own languages. That's the part we are not going to talk about. Chinese does not include those parts. But the rest parts of on the map, which has darker colors, those are the places people speak Chinese, but in different dialects. If you can see the brown area, it's the majority of the Chinese territory, and the major language is Guanhua. Guanhua means official language, which is Mandarin. So Mandarin, you can see, is spoken from the northeast to northwest, from the northwest to the southwest, also to the east. Guanhua, it is the language spoken by 836 million Chinese around the world. This is number one dialect in China. And then the next dialect is Wuyu. Wuyu is on the east side, so Shanghai, Nanjing, Hangzhou, in that area. And 77 million people, Chinese, speak Wu dialect. And then there is a Cantonese for people living abroad, living outside of China. They may be familiar with Cantonese. Cantonese is the language spoken in Canton, so Guangdong province, and Hong Kong. So this is quite a, that's why, and a lot of Hong Kong people and the Cantonese people live abroad, especially in Chinatown. There are a lot of restaurants and shops run by Hong Kong people, and Cantonese can be heard very often outside of China. So Mandarin, Cantonese are quite famous. Probably you have heard of them. Actually, there are more dialects, such as Mingyu in Fujian, Kejiahua, Jinyu in Shanxi, Hakka, Kejiahua, Ganyu, Huiyu, Pinghua, Xiangyu. So all those language dialects are spoken more or less on the east, southeast parts, plus in the Shanxi province, that area on the top in the north. So those are the major Chinese dialects in China. But just to pay attention, the number one dialect spoken in China is Mandarin, is Guanhua. So I hope it's clear. Chinese is an umbrella. It covers all the languages spoken in China. And the Mandarin is in fact a dialect. It is not a full language. Well, it is a language, but more or less it is a dialect. So again, let's have a look where you can find the places Mandarin is spoken. It is from Harbin in the northeast to Kunming in the southwest. It's from Wuhan to Urumqi to Beijing. It is a really, really a wide spread out area in China. And you know what is the basis for Mandarin? It is actually Beijing dialect. And we all know Beijing is the capital of China, and Beijing dialect has become the basis of Mandarin. So Mandarin is Guanhua, which is the speech of officials. And the Chinese people speak this dialect in different regions, very wide spread out regions. And the Beijing dialect is a member of this group, is the basis of Standard Mandarin. And the Standard Mandarin is also called 普通话. So in English, Mandarin refers to the standard language of Chinese. Well, it is the speech of officials anyway. So standard Chinese has different names in different regions. In Chinese, of course. So 普通话, it is used in mainland China, 国语 in Taiwan, and 华语 in Singapore. More or less, 普通话, 国语, 华语, they refer to the same thing, which is standard Chinese. And standard Chinese, what is standard Chinese? And that is Mandarin. So Mandarin is a standardized form of spoken Chinese. And it is also the official language of China and one of the 6 official languages of the United Nations. It is quite useful, Mandarin. So we should know Mandarin is actually taught in schools. Even in China, every student learns Mandarin in the school. They learn 普通话. Despite what dialect they speak at home, they got to learn Mandarin in the school. So if you are learning Chinese at school, you are learning Mandarin Chinese. Because not everybody knows about Mandarin, especially outside of China, you can tell people that you are learning Chinese. If you are learning Mandarin, most cases, 99% chance you are learning Mandarin. But there are still some chances. If you are learning Cantonese, for example, then you'd better specify it. You should say, I am learning Cantonese, instead of saying, I'm learning Chinese. Because if you say, I'm learning Chinese, that means you are actually learning Mandarin. Okay? So I hope you are clear about the difference between Chinese and Mandarin. Pretty much they mean the same thing, because Chinese, for the political, social, economic reason, we often use Chinese to refer to the umbrella, to refer to the language spoken in Chinese. In most cases, Mandarin. But when you learn the language, when you say you learn Chinese, you actually learn Mandarin. Is that clear? I hope it's clear. So thank you very much for joining me for this lesson. For more Chinese for Kids teaching and learning materials, please visit ChineseForKids.net. I will see you next Tuesday. 下周二见。再见。